During our time together today, we have a packed agenda, just like we did last time. We're in the midst of the welcome and introductions right now. We're doing that virtually because we're a big group and we are we have a lot to talk about, but please do introduce yourselves. Thank you, Precious, for putting the link into the Academic Catch-Up Program page. And I wanted to start out, and I'm gonna, this is kind of setting the tone for the upcoming workshops. And that is, we're going to have some time for updates and general questions. And then we're going to focus in on a specific aspect of the program. Today, it is the developmental English and math instruction. And we'll talk about the legislative language, and we'll talk about some potential models for providing this. We'll have some time for cross-college networking. Going to try out another new toy from the Zoom update, see if that works in terms of assigning everyone to breakout rooms. And then we'll come back together just to see if there's any remaining questions that we want to touch on. So that's our agenda. And let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all. I see the chat is active. Terrific. Let's get started with updates and general questions. So my updates, the MOUs have been sent. So the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding between the MCCA and your college, has gone to the person who filled out the application for the Academic Catch-Up Program. So hopefully you have all received that. I know we have more people on the line than that person, so I wanted to let you all know that those have been sent out. They are due to be returned on March 3rd. And when you return your MOU, we will begin processing the first payment of $83,000, which is as you might remember from the first workshop, it is the base allocation that is the same for every college. You will be submitting quarterly reports for this program. And the first one is going to be due April 7th. And obviously, you're probably not going to have any students by then, so you're not going to be reporting on any student outcomes. The things that the first quarterly report will ask for you is some kind of evidence that you're offering the program in summer 2023, a website, some description of your recruiting activities, a brochure file, something like that. We're going to ask you to estimate the number of students to be served. For that, you can either use the number that we have estimated as your target number of students to be served when we figured out how much each college would get, or we can have a conversation about the number of students that you expect to be serving. You can estimate a lower number at this time than we targeted you for. And then we also, with your MOU, you received a projected budget template. And that is, again, that is a projected budget template. That's an estimate. We're going to ask you to just, estimate how much you're going to spend in certain budget categories. That went out with the MOU. So I gave you some extra time to do that estimations. So those will not be due until the April 7th report. The second and third payments then will come upon receipt of the April report and then of the July report. And I know that people probably have some questions about the MOU. I'll take a couple of questions about it now, but I know that, I want to let you know that there will be more time for the questions on the MOU on the 21st. So that being said, does anybody have any questions right now? General questions about the MOU, questions about the program that you want to share? You can unmute yourself, I think, or maybe better raise your hand because we are a big group. Okay, I see Mark.
Yeah, hi, Jenny.
Hi.
This is Mark Palfrey with SMC. Thanks for taking my question. We were just prior to this in a meeting with our own working group for this, and so just a couple of things came up during that. First, is there a minimum number of students that need to enroll?
I would think yes, but we have not set that number yet. So that's a conversation we would take offline.
Okay. And
But I mean, I think that we, you have a maximum, you have a targeted number.
Sure.
I know that we, in our conversations at the MCCA, we certainly don't want to see people serving less than 10 or 15 students. So I think it's going to depend on the college.
Sure. And not that we are, anticipating being at that level, but we just wanted to know kind of what the guide rails were. And then what happens if we go over that targeted number? Is there a mechanism to do that or no?
We are working on a mechanism to do that. And it's going to be dependent on, where the part of the problem is that this funding, we've made this funding setup very dynamic. And so it's going to, how much we're able to compensate you for more students than your target is going to be dependent on other people and whether or not they're hitting their target. So that will be a TBA question.
Sure, thank you. And then just one quick follow-up. So we are working towards our co-rec models as well, kind of on the other side of this, on the MI math reform side with Kathy Almy.
Right.
But we will not likely have our co-rec courses ready for fall. And so if students complete this, they would then need to go into our college level course as a result of the MOU, correct?
That is correct.
So a student does not have the ability to choose to take a lower level course. If they complete this, they need to go into that college level course.
So can I ask everyone to mute, please? And so I can, so the legislative language is pretty clear that the students have to be enrolled either directly into college level courses or into college level courses with co-requisite support, and doesn't really allow for enrollment in a lower level developmental education or a standalone developmental education class. That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. JT, I see your hand.
Hi, Jenny. Thanks for taking my question here. So you talked about reporting, and I am curious, is there a format or is it something that you'll provide us later?
Yep, I will be providing you with, we're trying to make the form as simple as possible. We're going to use a Google form. We have some student counting metrics that are required by the state budget office. But what we're doing is we're working really hard to make sure that to the largest extent possible, the report will be able to be filled out by the person running the program. It's not going to involve extensive work with your student information system. It's not going to involve extra work for your IR person. You should be able to just, it's mostly about counting students. You're going to need to have an intake form for the students with asking certain demographic questions, but then you should be able to fill out the reports pretty easily. Whoever's running the program should be able to fill out the reports pretty easily. Any other general questions at this time? So, Holly.
Hi, Jenny. You mentioned that we would have to collect some demographic information from our students via an intake form. Do you have that framework and those questions available so that we have those on the front end?
I will have them available for you. You'll see them when you see the first quarterly report, but you just probably won't have any students to, but if you look at the MOU also, it kind of describes in general terms what we're going to be asking for. And no, we hadn't thought about creating a common intake form for all of you, but
yeah, I think we're okay probably coming up with our own intake form, but just having the right questions on that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
pointing me to the MOU is a helpful direction. Thank you.
Yep. And then once we've gathered the MOUs, we'll go ahead and, I don't want to keep the report a secret. We'll go ahead and release the report so that you can all see it. I just didn't want to overwhelm you with forms.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Keeping in mind that we will be meeting again in 2 weeks, and so we'll have more time for these questions. All right, let's go ahead and go on to talk about what we're the content today, the English and math. So these are the program requirements from the legislative language. I love crossing things off my to-do list. So I crossed off submit an application because you've all done that now. We're going to be talking today about the things that are not grayed out. So we're focusing on the requirement, offer a summer educational program that's focused on English and mathematics to any incoming college student enrolled in a public in-state community college or university that is free of charge to the student. And then also that if students who complete the summer educational program need to be enrolled in college level English or mathematics or into co-requisite courses in English or mathematics. And then we're also going to be talking about kind of the in-person online instruction options as part of this conversation today. And these things that are grayed out, then we will be discussing in other workshops. So I started thinking about this in terms of options that colleges might take with regard to offering this English and math instruction. And some of these you see on the frequently asked questions on the academic catch-up program website. And so one option is to enroll students in your scheduled developmental English and or math classes that are already happening on your campus, that you've already got, people enrolling in pretty soon, I would bet, if you haven't started registration for spring and summer yet. And you just enroll them in those courses and you don't charge them. So that's one option. Another would be to provide instruction as sort of an open lab option. And that can be online or in person. Also, your scheduled developmental classes can also be online or in person with instructor or tutor support. Or you can create special course sessions, traditional lab style, online, in-person, hybrid, facilitated by instructors. Those were the three big options that I envisioned, and I would love to hear if anybody wants to say that is raise your hand and let me know if you're thinking of something else. So Mark, I see you.
Yeah, so I'm just reading the or here, and I thought it was an and. So the open lab with the online or in-person instruction. From reading the documentation, I was under the assumption that we had to have online and in-person options for all students. Is that not the case?
Students need to be able to complete components of the course online if they need to, yes.
So we can't have it be just an in-person lab, like option 2.
That would be true. You cannot make it an all in person. You need to have options for students to be able to do at least parts of the program online. And we want to be flexible with that. I'm trying, reading the documentation from the legislative language. I was concerned at first that everybody was going to have to offer like the whole program in parallel, both online and in person. And I think, we got to a place where, as long as it was hybrid and students could complete aspects of the program online, that would be acceptable.
So that's different.
Okay, thank you. I might have a follow-up. Thank you very much.
Yep, I see Steve.
Yeah, Jenny, we came up with one. We're going to probably do the free enrollment and scheduled sections of developmental English and math for the majority of the participants. But we were wondering, we've had some issues with seniors in our dual credit classes getting C- and below in their first year English and math courses. And we wondered if we could, in fact, offer our regular non-developmental English and math courses free to those students, since they are recent college graduates who obviously were underprepared in math and English.
So basically they would be repeating courses that they took already.
Yes.
I think that that would be okay. I think that that would be an allowable use of the funds. I think as long as you also, as long as those aren't the only students that you're serving, I would say.
We figure it'd be a small portion of the group, maybe,
Mhm.
I mean, we're targeted for 91. We identified 30 dual credit students. We think at best we would get 15, probably more likely 9 or 10.
Mhm.
But we thought that might be a good option to offer.
Absolutely. I think it will be. I think it will be. I'm seeing Sam's question. I think it does, Sam, it could be either synchronous or asynchronous. That would be college's choice. Did I see someone else's hand? Maybe that was their question too. Carlos.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure here. So if we do option number 2 or option number 3, the students do not necessarily get actual college credits, correct?
That is correct. There is no expectation that students would receive academic credit for the academic catch-up program.
Okay,
Now,
thank you.
what Steve just
No.
described in terms of having students repeat English and math,
Oh.
as long as it's free, they would earn college credits, but otherwise, no, you don't need to have them earn college credits. Have I caught everybody? What about free enrollment in a first year experience class? That's a question, Michelle, I think we should talk about in the next webinar when we're talking about sort of the college knowledge component. We can cover that, and I think you're probably asking in respect to whether or not they would receive credit. And just, the most important thing that I want you to remember is that the language is pretty clear that it has to be free. So you can't charge the students, you can't let them use their Pell Grant. It has to be free. Does that make sense? And ask again next week about your first year class. Or 2 weeks from now. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put you into groups to do some networking, and I'm going to try a snazzy new Zoom tool. So wish me luck, right? I mean, maybe going to crash and burn, I don't know. But I'm going to launch a poll, which is basically going to ask you which of these models you're considering. Now, this is not a commitment. This is where you're at right now. And, so pick the one that you want to be in a group to talk to people about. So I'm going to try launching this poll. And then it's going to tell you what breakout room to go to. But before I launch the poll, hang on, I want to tell you that in your breakout sessions, go please. I've put together some questions for you to talk about, and we will have an MCCA staff member in each of the breakout rooms to basically just to troubleshoot. And then Michelle said she's going to stay in the same room. But just to make sure that, to keep some notes, to get a sense of the conversation, to bring back any issues. And then these are the questions. Are you going to be using placement testing to determine the student support needs? How do you expect to assess the progress, especially relative to the requirement that the students be put either into co-requisite support or standalone college level classes? And yeah, those are the 3 questions. How are you gonna assess their progress? How will you determine what support needs they're gonna have if they do enroll for fall? So now I'm gonna launch the poll. Does everyone see it? Yes, people see it. And remember, this is not a commitment. You are just saying what your thinking is at this time.
Question.
Just to I'm so sorry to beat a dead horse here, Jenny. Just to clarify one more time, we've been going on the assumption that we could not use existing courses on our own books as this camp or as this catch-up program. So we could have students in what are, our pre-algebra or our mathematical literacy courses. They could literally just be taking that plus English content plus like our Ed 120 over the summer. And if we're paying the tuition on those courses and fees on those courses, then that would be considered meeting the statutory requirements.
Correct. Yes. Yes, you
Okay.
can use your scheduled courses.
Is this new information? We've really been going on the assumption that we had to have a different model than this, I guess.
No, actually, I think this has been on the, if you've read the frequently asked questions on the academic catch-up website, I have said this from the beginning that you could do that.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever fielded this question from anyone.
Sorry, yeah, and we're just, maybe this is just us overlooking that. So thank you very much for clarifying it.
Yep. Okay, I got 9 people who haven't responded. Either they haven't, you're still thinking, or you're not actually there, which I know sometimes happens. People have stepped away.
Jenny, Grace asked if, what if they're doing all 3?
Do they have more than one person here, or is it just her? I mean, this is
Hi there,
basically.
Jenny, I'm
Hi,
sorry.
Grace. That's
I was
okay.
having a hard time unmuting. I'm not sure if my Dean of Science Math was able to join, but there's a couple of us on. So there's the potential to do multiple programming. My concern is we're looking at offering free tuition co-requisite courses, but we're going to have students who aren't even ready for those. We do very little pre-co-requisite course developmental education, but with this program, I think we're going to be capturing more students who may need that because of the issue with COVID and the whole reason that we have these grant dollars available. So we're looking at, we already offer some pre-developmental, the goal is to get the student to bypass developmental. So we offer some non-credit math camps, math boot camps. And our thought is there may be some students who are going to need to go in that 3-week math boot camp before they can place in our Math 105, which is a high-end developmental. They complete that, then they go right into the college level mathematics. So that's what I'm thinking, that not only would we be offering the co-requisite classes that result in the student actually either being ready for the college level or actually completing the college level, but some developmental math boot camps.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. That I think the overall purpose of the academic catch-up program is to target those students who you may not feel are ready for co-requisites. So that is a pretty significant group with this COVID learning loss, that the idea is to take students that in an ordinary, were there no academic catch-up program, they would have to be placed in a class that precedes being able to be enrolled in the co-requisite. We can get into that's a different conversation about whether or not students could be successful using co-req. But I think the idea is that this programming would target those students who were getting ready to be in a class either with co-requisite support or bypassing co-requisite support altogether. And so maybe I should make it a statement. There is no requirement that you offer co-requisite courses as part of the academic catch-up program. The academic catch-up program is meant to prepare students to take the gateway courses either with or without co-requisite support. You do not need to offer co-requisite courses in the summer as part of the academic catch-up program. Does that make sense to everybody?
That makes sense to me, and that changes what we'll be doing, but that's not a problem. We have content, especially in mathematics, and we're working on writing, so.
Yeah, my goal is, and this is Kevin Cooper, Jenny, you know, we've been discussing some things offline, but I'm hoping, because we've had requests from our math boot camp students to have a more advanced math boot camp. So I kind of have some things in the works for summer, this upcoming summer with that. So I'm thinking that might fit with this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think so too, and we should probably have more specific conversation. Continue to have more specific conversation. I see a question about the ALMI group. Hang on, now I did something to, okay. The work seems like an important parallel. Oh, Michelle, hi. So the timelines should arrive. Hi, Michelle. The timelines should align, Michelle Kelly, and it should, Kathy knows about this, and she and I are meeting next week to even go further into it. So it should all be okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send you all to your breakout rooms. Let's, anybody want to share anything, any questions that came up in your breakout room, any realizations? Anything that you want to share for the good of the group?
One of the comments we were in breakout number 3 was that the greater awareness that there are options other than what the class of breakout 3 was, and that we could look at other methodologies to still meet the legislation. So that was one of the takeaways for today.
Yeah, one of the things I like about the way that this is structured is it does offer you quite a bit of freedom. I mean, that as long as you are looking at those, you know, that the students are, that it's free of charge for the students, that it's English and math instruction, and that when they finish, when they complete, they're able to enroll in a gateway level class with co-requisite support or without. Access available online and in person. It's pretty, you're pretty flexible.
So one question that came up in our group was, what does completion mean?
I think that you are entitled to define that within reason. Students should obviously probably attend. It's a comprehensive program. They should be part of, they should have experienced the comprehensive program. And then it's up to you whether you're counting them as a completer or not counting them as a completer. Hang on, let me pop my chat open. What if student still wants to opt for developmental math after completing the program? And we had this conversation a little bit in the room that I was in as well. The idea is the students should not be enrolled in a standalone developmental class after completing the program. That the intention of the program is to prepare students to complete gateway courses when they first enroll. So that, and if they are participants in the Reconnect program, that would be required anyway. So they would not be entitled to take a standalone developmental class, or they would not be eligible to take a standalone developmental class if they're a Reconnect student. This is one of those this is one of those places where philosophically I'm I'm saying the state is moving and the field is moving and the nation is moving away from standalone developmental courses, because even if the student wants to take the course because they think that that would be easier and it feels better matched to their skill level, statistically and based on the research, they are not as likely to, I'm coming back to that question, they're not as likely to progress through the gateway course, and then they're less likely to complete. Holly, I think you're, no, I believe if you look at the legislation that the student can't be charged for a class that's not a co-rec class if they are a Reconnect student. They cannot be charged. They can't use their financial aid. It needs to be offered outside of the college's tuition and fee structure. It needs to be free to the student. So Reconnectors cannot take a developmental class and pay tuition for it. Other thoughts and questions? We're just about at the top of the hour. Hopefully this has been helpful. I know it just kind of scratches the surface. Got a question for GRCC because they have been offering these boot camps. If you have an academic plan that you want to share, you can email it to me. I'll get it out to the group on the academic catch-up program points of contact, which would be part of my final thing that I want to say, which is we will be talking again on the 21st and then again on the 7th of March and the 21st of March about these different components to the program, each one, and be sure that you are subscribed for updates. I'm not sharing my screen, am I? I'm going to put the chat into the chat, the link to subscribe for updates if you have not done that yet, because that's where you're going to get the updates. That's the only way that you will receive updates about the program is if you are subscribed to this list. Share it with other people, put everybody on it. Go to that form and fill it out if you haven't done it already, and you will receive reminders about every workshop that's coming up and any other updates that come along.